Looks like we are going live here. It is Andy Lockwood. Today is College Talk Tuesday because it's Tuesday, and this is when Pearl and I talk about college stuff, getting into college, paying for college, anything college related. So, Pearl, yeah, she's not here. Couldn't make it. Pearl's very busy filling out financial aid forms, and I took everything I had, all of my quite formidable, thank you very much, powers of persuasion to get her to pull away from her FAFSAs and CSS profiles and all that last night when we did a webinar called the 21 Deadliest Financial Aid Mistakes and How to Avoid Them. We talked about some common mistakes that can sabotage your eligibility for grants and for scholarships. So today, in College Talk Tuesday, I wanted to get into 3 of those mistakes. And if you have any questions or comments, you can just pop them right into this post here. I will check them out and get back to you in a reasonable amount of time, although we're kind of swamped this time of year. But also, if you want some help on your own financial aid forms, there's a link to the special that we're running and to the coupon code that's right here in this post. Pearl told me that I really shouldn't use that coupon code. She thought that was kind of racist somehow. It's spook. That is a Halloween themed coupon code. It is not a white supremacist theme. Come on, Pearl. Seriously, if she were here, I'd be saying this to her on air, and she'd probably be ignoring me. So it's the same difference whether she's here or not. So anyway, so one of the first things I want to talk about is the 529. So we get a lot of questions on the 529 every time we do a webinar because the 529 is kind of a mixed bag. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying it's mixed, hence mixed bag. It's a trick and a treat for some people. And what I mean specifically is that 529 counts against you, period. It's not a matter of whether it does or not. It's how much it counts against you. But for people who can't qualify for need-based aid, which is a lot of our clients, frankly, and us, frankly, me and Pearl, the 529 is a great thing because it will it'll act as a tax deduction for, depending on where you live, but in most states in the country. All right. Where it's not a good thing is if your income is at a level where you can qualify for need-based aid, and then and only then should you consider moving it. So some of the questions we get related to this are, well, where should we move it? What are the penalties? Do I have to disclose every child's 529? What about my grandparents' 529? They open up a 529 for me. So I'm going to actually post a replay of our webinar on that page at some point, the financialaid2018.com. But let me just talk to you real quick about a couple of those. So every child's 529 gets disclosed, period, because it's considered on the FAFSA, the main financial aid form, a parent asset. And the CSS profile also asks about 529s as well as any other money stashed away for any of your kids who's younger than the age of 19. So almost all of it comes into play, except the grandparent 529, because that's not anywhere on the forms, simply because the forms ask about child assets and parent assets. They're silent on grandparent assets. However, that money used for college can actually come back there's a little bit of a catch once you use that money that can reduce your eligibility. But that's outside the scope of today's post. So that's the 529. Now I want to talk to you about business owners. And Pearl and I always talk about how there are these loopholes that in landmines that even the most seasoned financial aid, CPAs and other people who are very good with paperwork, like lawyers, financial advisors, you name it, how they overlook these types of loopholes. Just a couple hours ago, I was having breakfast with a very good, very knowledgeable CPA who also happens to be a financial advisor, and we were talking about exactly this. And he'd already done the forms himself for 2 of his kids at very prestigious private colleges that are super hard to get into. And he's a business owner and a CPA, and he didn't know this loophole. So his kids are long gone out of college, but he could have perhaps left a little bit of money on the table had he done this correctly. My bottom line here is that when you fill out the FAFSA and you're self-employed, it asks you for the value of your business. In this gentleman's case, he valued his business at something like $50,000 or $100,000. That's a mistake. We've seen many people make the same mistake. It all boils down to the problem being that they're using real world values, not FAFSA values, not financial aid values. The FAFSA says very clearly, if you employ fewer than 100 people, then the value of your business is zero. That's just one major loophole that no one ever catches, but that is one of my favorites. If I had to rank my top 5 loopholes, that would probably be number 1 or number 2, and yes, I would do something like that. So you just have to be aware of all this stuff and understand that if you make a mistake, you're not alone. You have plenty of good company. Okay. Third mistake I want to talk about is relating to divorced or separated families. So a lot of times people fill out the forms and they mistakenly include both spouses if you are separated, or there's all sorts of nuances. If you get remarried, what gets included, what doesn't get included. We had quite a few questions about that last night on the webinar, and here's the quick and dirty summary about how all that stuff works. If you are divorced or separated, the FAFSA asks about which parent is the custodial parent, not meaning which parent deducts the kid, because that can change from year to year. In a lot of settlement agreements, parents kind of switch off their deductions. One person deducts the kid one year, and then the next year the other ex-spouse deducts the kid. For financial aid, the custodial parent has a very strict definition. That's the parent that the kid resides with a majority of time. 50.0000000, okay, 1%. So if there's some flexibility, and I'm not suggesting you do anything, under the table, anything sleazy, but if there is some flexibility in good faith, and you can say that the child resides a majority of time with a parent who happens to look worse on paper, lower income, lower assets, that could help you a lot. Now, one catch. Just the way I was talking about, there's always a catch. Like with the grandparent 529, there's also a divorce catch, which is, depending on the schools you're applying to, some colleges will be very interested and require separate disclosures from the non-custodial parent. There's another form called the non-custodial parent profile. And that's my bonus mistake, by the way. Mistake number 4 out of the 3 that I was going to cover today is you've got to be very, very careful about which forms you are required to fill out, because that can change. It can change every year. It can change at one college from freshman year compared to sophomore year. So recently, Pearl mentioned this last night, recently Northeastern used to require the FAFSA and the profile. The FAFSA is the main financial aid form. It's about 100 and something questions. The profile is like double that amount. And even though the FAFSA appears to be straightforward, my argument is it's not, and that's supported by the conversation I had this morning with the CPA. The profile, no one thinks that's straightforward at all. So you have to be very careful about how you fill these forms out, not only understanding which forms to fill out, but how to fill them out. Northeastern used to require the FAFSA and the profile for every year, and I believe last year we noticed they stopped requiring the profile for returning students, and this year, 2017, they require only the FAFSA. I don't know what that means in terms of how they're giving money out. My gut feeling is that they're really gearing themselves far more toward merit scholarships than need-based, but we'll see. We'll see what that translates into this year. That's things change every year, and this is a new cycle. So anyway, you've got to be very careful about not only what all these nuances and all that, but also being mindful of the deadlines and which forms to file, and making sure you're doing them correctly and strategically. Making sure you understand exactly what these loopholes are that can potentially save you some money, or landmines. So I put a link here. If you want our help, we're running a special. Just go to the site that's right here in the comments, financialaid2018.com, and the coupon code SPOOK, even though Pearl doesn't think it's politically correct. I like it because we're in Halloween season. If you have any questions, if you're not sure whether you can qualify for anything, or whether our service can benefit you, of course, pop them in comments. We can work out a time to speak on the phone. You may have to wait a day or two just because our volume is so crazy right now, but we don't want you to make a bad mistake and retain us, and then we can't help you. I'd rather talk to you first. All right. Thanks a lot for watching this Lone Wolf solo episode of College Talk Tuesday. I'll be back next week. I'll probably be back before then with a little bit of college coffee talk. I try to squeeze those in a couple mornings a week. And I may be back with Pearl next week. We're still together, but she may be back on the show, pending her workload. Okay, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.